Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm your host, Gordon Mack, and today we have a special guest, none other than Trayvon Bromell. Trayvon, how you doing? Welcome back to the pod. I talked to you last summer, but how's it been?
Oh, everything good. As y'all know, just from the transition, being back here in Florida, being up on the Tumbleweed Track Club, it's been a lot of change. So everything's been good though. Like no reoccurring of the injury. Everything is smooth. Just staying focused for this summer.
Yeah, speaking of staying focused for this summer, we're what, like a month out, a little 6 weeks out from the trials.
Mhm.
Obviously, everything's gearing up towards then. What are you kind of focusing in on between now and getting to the starting line in Eugene?
Oh, me personally, probably just staying healthy, eating the right things, making sure I'm recovering well. That's like the biggest thing. I feel like the fitness is there. Coach has us doing everything. So the strength and fitness and speed is there. It's just all about staying healthy up until the trials and making the team and going towards the games and being healthy to compete.
When are we gonna get to see you in your bread and butter event, the 100? We saw you kind of tease us by being in a track meet with Gatlin and Lyles and all those guys, but you didn't run in that same
Yeah.
race. So what was the reason for not running the 100 yet so far?
Uh, I mean, it's hard to really say. We just trying to just make sure that everything is what it is. Because I'm gonna be honest, like I obviously from people that know the group, like we got a lot of great talent. So it's like a diamond league every day when we train, and it's to the point where we're putting up some good numbers. It's just trying to make sure that I'm strong, I'm fit, and we don't, try to run to meet something happens and stuff like that. We're trying to make sure like, okay, trade body is ready to withstand this. We can run rounds. We can do like that's what we're building on because for the importance of it all, when we get the trials, it's gonna be multiple rounds. When you get to the Olympics, multiple rounds. Like that's the thing. Like trying to go run these one offs and stuff like that. Like, is it a rush to run the 100 right away? For us, no. The importance is we get the trials healthy. We can run through the rounds. We fit get on the team, make the Olympics, run through those rounds, and do something spectacular. So, right as of right now, that was the reason. I mean, we're getting ready to open up in 100. So, right now, it's just trying to see where I'm at and how we can build on from that.
You're at a track meet though with Noah and Justin, guys that you're going to be competing against at the Olympic trials and probably ultimately at the Olympics as well. What was your takeaway from that race when you saw Gatlin win, Noah kind of fall back, run his 10:08?
It's funny because I actually wanted to run, but like I said, we got a race plan and everything that my coach he wants me to stick to, even though he knows I'm like I want to run, but he like look you gotta stay focused. We got to plan. We got to be smart about everything that we do. So when I'm watching those guys compete, it's just it make you want to compete more, So it's not more so of me like being that person, like, okay, let's see what they got going, like how they running, how they looking. Because at the end of the day, we know our sport, black and white. Like once we get to the trials, you can see a different them, you can see a different me, everybody. So for me, it was just like it was good to see those guys run. It was good to see the competition being stacked like that, like having that field and seeing the times.
Is there like a mental game or competitive edge at all? Kind of not racing the top guys until it counts most in the finals, or does it not matter to you? Or like, is there any mental aspect to the who you race leading up to a trials, leading up to an Olympics?
To be honest with you, I don't really think it matters. Like a lot of people, you got athletes that say, "Oh, I wanna race all the time. I wanna race all the guys that I'm gonna go against at the trials and stuff like that, just to see how can I get an edge on things like that." And you got some people that's like, "Oh, I don't really want to deal with the smoke and all the all the attention that it's gonna bring too early. Like I don't want to burn myself out running against these guys." For me, it's like regardless if the field is stacked or the field is empty, I'm not at a meet to not try my hardest or try my best. Like even if I go back to like the indoors when Ronnie beat me in the 60, like I wasn't supposed to run, but I just told my coach, I'm like, it is what it is. Like I need to get rolling a little bit just going into the outdoors because we had a hard training session that he's like, I don't want you to run. Like, but I'm like, man, it is what it is. Like I've been out for for 4 years, so I'm like, it is what it is. If I win or lose, like it doesn't dictate what I'm gonna do outdoors, you know. And I think once me and coach kind of sat down and we just went over everything, what's the smart way about it? It's just like, shoot, now you just move the way you want to move. So once we get into our races, I don't care if it's me and maybe guys who may be in like the top 20 or 50, or if it's the guys that's in the top 10, I'm gonna give it my all regardless. So I think for me, I think it's a competitive edge for me because I don't think like a lot of athletes, oh man, I want to race against the top guys early so I can see what they doing or how I could beat them down the road. Like I'm like, shit, at the end of the day, I'm gonna give it my all when I get to the line regardless.
Do these months leading up to the trials as we get closer, do you like is it like harder to sleep because you're getting bigger, closer and closer to that big moment? When we're going through the pandemic, it's the summer of 2020. Hey, the trials aren't for another year. Everything's kind of chill. There's no pressure. But what's it like being a contending athlete in the months leading up to the big race?
Uh, for me, I can say it like this. When I was injured, those type of situations did come about a lot because it's like, okay, a meet to come up and we'll be like, all right, we're gonna enter you into the meet. And I'm just like, man, I'm staying up late night, like, man, how am I run? How the world gonna see me? Like, am I gonna be who I used to be, or is my body gonna be right? And then something happened. I'm like, like this is what I was worried about. But now, honestly, I'm just like, I sleep good. Like I'm not thinking too much of it. Not saying like, oh, I feel like, oh, I'm just top dog. I'm like that. I don't work. I'm like, I know what we're training for. I have a championship mentality. So for me, it's like if I'm fit and I'm ready to run, I know I'm going to run well if we put the race plan together and we execute in the race. So I don't sit here, with a couple weeks out or months to go into trials and Olympics. I don't sit here thinking like, oh man, what's gonna happen? This is like our coach tell us, like just stay focused, stay patient, and the rest to handle itself. I tell people like everybody know me through my social media presence. Like I'm very spiritual in my religion. So at the end of the day, it's all in God's hands. Like I've done the work at practice. Now I just gotta let him do what he need to do through me when I step on the track.
Do you feel like you are your old self, like your 2015 self, or arguably we could say your 2020 self, because 2020 was a good year for you as well?
Mhm.
We've only seen you on the track a couple times. You ran that 6:48 indoors, a couple 200s, just coming off of 2062. Where do you feel like you are physically, health wise? Like if you were to run 100 tomorrow, how fast would it be?
It's I don't think my coach would even want me to say that because he, to be honest with you, because we don't like it. I'm gonna say it like this: the times that we hit in practice, and anybody who knows running, like we got the technology, we got the lasers, everything. So the stuff that we do in practice really be legit. And like I said, I'm not gonna say on here, but if we see the times that we hitting, like you would be like, okay, what are these guys going to run when it's time for like the hurdles, the jumps, the sprints? Like we're really putting up some great times, doing some great things in practice. So a lot of us are, like I said, we're moving comfortably because we know what our coach is trying to prepare us for. So, like I said, I'm not gonna say, oh, what y'all may see this weekend or the next weekend or the weekend after that, but I feel confidence in what we've been doing that we're gonna put up some great times this year.
So it's looking good so far. You're in
Yeah,
good vibes, good
yeah.
health, good mental health, all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
no, yeah, because I tell you, like even like what you said, do I feel like the old me? I could be honest, like I don't feel like the old me because I feel like who I am now, I'm more mature in a different sense. Like I said, like anybody who's been recently listening to my story, like just my spiritual life, the way I move and operate is a lot different from who I was 4 or 5 years ago. So now it's like I do live with more peace and more understanding to my presence and what I do in the sport alone. So now, like I said, back then it was, oh, I feel like I got to get the approval of the world to know that, oh, I am that guy, I am fast. And now it's like, regardless, like I'm a spiritual person. You gonna feel it regardless if you like to or not. Like God has already cemented this into his covenant. So I'm looking like, hey, if it's for me, it's for me, and nobody can stop that because it's not for us to control. So I move with that presence. I'm like, look, wherever I step, God is right there. So when you see me, understand you're gonna see his works because I'm nothing but a vessel. So that's just how I operate now.
You mentioned, I mentioned five. Are you like yourself from 5 years ago? You say you're kind of like a different person, but 5 years ago, we actually did a film on you, Driven. Came out, and I think August of 2015, right before your first World Championship. I had a chance to rewatch it because we're releasing it for free on YouTube. That's why we have it on this pod, so it's pretty cool. Get to watch both episodes on YouTube. I think it'll go up on Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure what day, but this week on YouTube, watch both episodes. I just want to ask you, do you remember what was life like back in 2015? I think that was right after your sophomore year, thinking about going pro, just qualified for your first world team. What was your head space like? How did you feel during that summer going into your first world champs?
Man, I felt good, but I'll be honest, man. Like even though I was probably a lot mature than uh, a lot of people my age dealing with the I guess the notoriety of things and stuff, I was still immature in a sense, man. Like even just how I operated things once I turned pro. Like obviously, you take somebody like me who come from nothing. You sign this big contract and everything like that. You're on top of the world. Like you want to buy everything. You want to do everything. So for me, I was like, man. And when I look back now, I'm like, man, I was wilding. Like I'm like, I was doing too much. Like as much as I felt in that time, like okay, strictly track on focus, tunnel vision. I look back now and I was like, man, I was distracted by a lot of different things. Like when I could pinpoint these things, like I'm just like even just being too involved in the like involved into the approval of others, or what car I'm gonna buy next, or something like just stuff like that. I'm like, man, I wasn't who I thought I was. So I think then I look back and I'm just like, man, I'm glad I'm not that guy no more. And it ain't saying that I was a bad guy. It's just I wasn't in the right frame of thinking, you know. And I think a lot of people got to do that. They got to look back and sometimes understand where you was messing up.
Was there like a regrettable purchase you made after you signed your big contract? Like you're like, why did I do that? What was I thinking?
Man, I bought too many cars. I bought too
Two?
many.
How
I
many
bought
cars did you buy?
Man, I don't even want to say because I feel like people gonna hear this thing and be like, "Boy, this dude was tripping." Like, I feel like I bought too many cars. I'm gonna just be honest with you.
Did
I
you
bought
sell
too.
them back? Have you
Yeah,
still
yeah,
have the
yeah. Like
cars?
I get rid of them, but I wasn't like leasing cars. Like I was buying cash. Like, hey, I need a new Jag. I need a new Demon Hellcat. I need like I was just like you know feel me? I was just like I need it. And I look back, and even though I was able to do it, but was it smart? You know, like I'm not getting no money off investment off of that. You know what I'm saying? Like that money is going to them, and I'm not seeing no return on it. So like I tell people now from my mistakes, I'm like, look, if you get an opportunity to make some money, anything like, don't buy cars,
So
don't
just
buy cars.
is the advice just buy one car.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
just buy
yeah.
one car.
I never take away somebody, you know, from somebody saying like, hey, if you got a dream car, like, you know, you work hard, you know, yeah, you go get your car. Don't buy a lot of cars. Like, don't buy a lot of cars. Like, you feel me? I'm blessed that it ain't break me. Like, I'm running around here like, oh man, I need some money. But it's just like those type of things. Like, it wasn't smart. Even though it wasn't something that I presented to the world. Like, nobody even seen on my social media. Like, oh, Trey got a new car this week. Or you got like it was something eternally that I had to realize. I'm like, man, you gotta stop. You feel me? You gotta stop. So I think that like stuff like that. I look back and I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not that guy no more.
Did did you end up buying a car from like multiple cars from the same person? Like you like, Trayvon's back, he wants another car. Like did it start getting comical
Nah,
in a
yeah,
weird way?
yeah, like it was bad that one. I remember one dealership. They was like, he'll be back in 3 months, like literally. And like I'll come back and it was like, oh, well, let's take him to this section. Like, okay, we got this. I'm like, I was like, man, it was crazy. Like I had, yeah, it was crazy. But once again, I was 19. You remember, I was a teenager turning pro with this big contract, and man, like I said, I come from the hood. Like, ain't too many people that's giving us advice on how to, you know, manage this type of money. So I'm thinking like, shoot, I get to live out my dreams now. And with situations like that, you kind of got to be smart and thankfully that I had people around me to be like, hey Trey, like you got to chill. That it didn't like become a continuous thing. Like it ended up stopping, and I ended up realizing like, okay, I got to do something with my money. Especially like when I got hurt, I was like, okay. Imagine if you did, like I started adding up all the cars I bought. I was like, oh, I could have had so much more money still in the bank if I ain't bought all these cars. And like I was like, okay, we gonna take that L. Now let's see how can we build off, some of this finances that I have still from my contract and everything that I've like earned from, meets and stuff like that prior to me getting hurt. So yeah, like I look back at stuff like that, and I think, yeah, for a lot of the people that gonna hear this, I feel like that's one thing I voice to many people, like understand this money come and go, and it will go fast if you don't understand how to like manage it.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in all professional sports. They talk about it, NBA players, NFL players. They're like, they get their first game check, and they're like, "Whoa, I never seen that many zeros," and you don't know what to
Yeah,
do. So it makes
yeah, it's
sense.
crazy.
Uh, in the first episode of Driven, the first like 10 or so minutes kind of talks about your first time you fell in love with track, and talks about your injury that you dealt with in 8th grade when you did that backflip or front flip.
Yeah.
And you said an interesting line that I thought was kind of funny in the documentary. You said, "Not many people can say they've gone 3 years without running and made it." And you were referencing the 3 years of like the early high school, middle school days.
Yeah.
And then you had made it by making a world team in 2015.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, that literally has happened a second time in your life, right? You've gone 3 years since 2016 of not running, right? And now you're back in contention to make it again.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like crazy how your life is kind of repeating itself with this dealing with a major injury and having to focus to get back?
Yeah, man, it's crazy because I actually thought about that. I thought about that a while back. I want to say it was sometime like at the end of last year. I was thinking about that. I was like, wow. I said it's crazy how situations happen, and that's why I tell people if it's written for me to do something spectacular this summer, it's gonna be one of the greatest stories that we ever witnessed. And it's not, and that's me being as humble as possible. And it's not, like I said, because of who I am, but because of the things that we can't explain. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep into spirituality, but people gotta understand those things that we can't explain, like it has to come from somewhere. And I tell people, I broke both of my knees and my hip. Doctors, people who go to school for this many years told me you won't run fast again. Then I was able to go to college, be the 5th freshman to win an NCAA title in 100, run 9.8 as a teenager, like something that we've never seen. So I'm like, make it make sense. You know what I'm saying? And then, like I said, then this year coming, I can only tell y'all the stuff that we had to go through with just, trying to get everything back in play. Like even when I came to the group, like we had to deal with, doctors not really believing that this could be a reality for me. Like it might have been more realistic to just retire. And then 2020 come and I ran the times down there in Cleveland. And then we just like I said, it's a lot. Like people don't even know. Like even at that first Cleveland meet when I ran 10-0, like I had to walk over to my mom and I was shaking because I couldn't even believe it. Like my mama had to tell my coach to like just give him some time because I was like in shock myself. Because I'm like, this is the stuff that people don't realize is happening. Like this is the unwritten thing that people just, the unknown that people just so hard for people to believe. And I'm just like, it's right here in front of y'all. Like how much more do God got to show to y'all that his presence is real? I've always worked hard in my life. Like I need people to understand. You think them 4 years, the 3 years I was out, I wasn't working hard. I was flying all over the world trying to get help. Like spending money trying to figure out what I can do to be better, get better. Nothing was working. I literally one day I told God, I said, look, I got nothing left. I said, I can keep spending this money to go see doctors. It ain't working. Whatever you want to do, like do it. And literally we made a transition. Like I stayed focused and steadfast in my religion and stuff just started turning. It started turning. I'm like, this is crazy. But I mean, that's faith though, so that's why I try to tell people, like me personally, am I surprised now in the state, with everything going on? No, because he made me a believer again. Like this is like I don't even know how to explain it. It's crazy. Even like with this past year with the 6'4", like everybody can ask Raina. I was on the side after doing that on TV interview. I was on the side just like shaking. Like I was just like, I never opened up with 6'4". So it scared me because I'm like, I instantly went to thinking outdoor, like what I'm gonna do outdoor. Because the last time I ran something fast indoor, I ran 9.8. The year I ran 9.8, I was only able to get to 655 indoors. I opened up with 6'4". I'm like, and that's why I had to learn, like, okay, stay in the moment, because I instantly jumped outdoor. I was like, okay, what's gonna happen in 100 if I open up with this? Like, what's gonna happen? So, yeah, man, it's a lot. It's a lot, and that's what I mean by why I ain't really just out here just doing too much talking and stuff like that. I'm like I stay in the moment and I keep moving forward because I got to take it day by day. I can't get too far ahead.
One fun thing that fans have is when we get ready for the trials, it's all about predicting who the top 3 are going to be. Everyone has their form chart. Like, here's my picks for the 3. And the men's 100, it's not an obvious 3 because you could probably make an argument for 4 or 5 different guys who are top 3. Obviously yourself, Gatlin, who's been there multiple times, Noah, Ronnie Baker's running fast. You have college kids running out of their mind, etc. What do you think the landscape of the men's 100 is, and how hard do you think it will be to be a top 3 guy in the U.S.? Because some could argue 4th in the U.S. will probably get 4th at the Olympics.
No, I tell people all the time, man, Olympics is, I mean, not Olympics, but USA trials is the Olympics. I'm gonna be honest. Like, our trials is so crazy, especially with the sprints. Man, I ain't gonna lie to you. It's gonna be a dog fight in the 100. I'm gonna be honest, and that's why I say it's gonna come down to that mentality. Like, people gotta understand, like, when you step to that line, even if you fit, even if you've been a vet to this thing, don't act like some of these young kids won't come in and step out. Like, and I can vouch for that. I was in college when I made the 2015 team. Like, you gonna have some kids that's like, okay, I got nothing to lose. Like, y'all are pros, so y'all have to run fast. Like, for me, like I said, for me, when I was a sophomore, I thought like, hey, I can come back to school if I don't make the team. You know what I'm saying? And still have things paid for. I got free meals, things like I'm good. I can get my education. But for the pros, I hope a lot of us don't take leniency to that. Like, oh, they young, they ain't gonna, okay, don't lay down because some of these young kids gonna run. So I know for me, I don't never count nobody out. Like, I'm like, look, I gotta stay grinding. I gotta stay hungry because everybody is gunning for that top 3.
So what if you're a bystander? Say you were retired, right? And say it's like year 2035, and you're retired and you're watching a 100-meter final. What would you look for in the field to say like that guy's gonna make the team versus that guy's not gonna make the team? As like a bystander, like what should we be looking for when we evaluate talent? Because 100, such a, you have the drive phase, you have good starts, you have people who can close well, but such a short race, such minuscule things, plus minuses that can cause someone to win or lose. As someone who's been in it and knows what it takes to compete, what should the bystanders be looking for to kind of really evaluate a field, the talent?
Man, I'm gonna be honest because and I heard you all talk about this in a different podcast a couple days ago that I watched, and like we all know with the 100, it's such a quick event that like the smallest thing can throw a race off, right? So for me personally, I look at somebody's presence. Like, you can see it on somebody's face who ready, like, or how somebody's attitude is. You can you can see fear too. You know what I'm saying? So like when I'm even like my time of being home, like, when I was injured and I'm watching the races, I'm be like, oh, that person look kind of nervous, and then it end up being a hindrance to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can feel that. Like, that's why I say like preparation is key. Like, that confidence going into the meet is key. Because if I don't want to go too sciencey on everybody, but it's a spectrum that plays when it comes to like the neurons in your brains and everything like that. So like if you get too high, like that could throw you off, and if you get too low, it could throw you off. So you want to be right there. That's what the winners are. Like, who can pretty much put that together and get out there and go. Like, those who up there and they just looking around like, oh man, like I got this person right here on my side, or somebody who just too much going into to where it's just physically throwing them off when you hit that shh, and the starter like runners on your mark, and then that whole thing crash. You like, oh crap, this is really happening. So you look for them people that are very poised, and that's like, okay, it's business. Like, this is what I came here to do. Like, you look for them type of people, and we seen this type of characteristics through, track and field. Like, we see like Christian Taylor. We could be honest with like right now with like Sha'Carri, like what meet she going into where she's not confident, and we, I mean, from just Noah, Christian, Andre, everybody, like these people who go into the race, they like man, I could go in so much like freaking Grant, Omar, like everybody, all these top guys. When they go into the meet, you see it on their face that they hungry for success, right? So you look for those type of athletes. Like times throughout the season, it really don't matter when you get to those big meets, like the championships and Olympics and worlds. Like it don't matter. All that matters is the person who's fit and the person who's more poised and patient. That's who win the races, to be honest with me.
Yeah, you would think it's like, all right, fastest PBs wins, but it's
Yeah.
never that. It's the best headspace really that wins because, like you said, the difference between a 998 runner and a 995 runner is nothing. It's just like it's mental. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So
No, for real. Because I've seen athletes who have the potential to run 9.8s, and maybe because they don't get to that level is because they mentally count themselves out, or they put themselves in so much of a shock that when the setter tells you to get ready and get in your blocks, everything crashes down. Like people don't understand how much that mental play a big part with this sport.
got a chance to talk to you last year about the Christian Coleman situation. He was being faced with a 2-year ban. It got reduced, which basically allows him. We know he's not going to be at the Olympics, but he will be able to compete at World Indoors next year. You and him are both the most recent World Indoor champions. You won in 2016. He won in 2018. What was your thoughts on realizing for sure that Christian wasn't going to be able to be on that starting line at the trials?
What you mean?
Like, what was your reaction knowing that Christian wasn't going to be officially in the Olympic trials as a person that you were going to be potentially racing?
I really didn't look too much into it after, I guess, when the big stuff like first came out and everything. Like obviously, I mean, nobody really heard too much of what was going on for a period of time after things kind of like calmed down from when it first hit like the media. So for me, I really didn't like think too much on it. I think I forgot, like a lot of people forgot, like it was like, oh, he probably just ain't running. So when it recently came out, it was crazy because like I actually got the notification off ESPN because I got the notification set up on my phone when I seen like the headlines. I mean, they kind of already said like that was going to happen, but I mean, for him, I think obviously he will be probably frustrated that he can't run, but I think he look at it as a blessing that he can still go and run the following year, run the indoors and outdoors. So I think more so like if I was in his shoes, I mean, I honestly would be frustrated you can't run in the Olympics. But I mean, think about it like this: a lot of people have been in, I guess, worse situations as we've seen, in the past. So honestly, I can't speak for no man. So he gonna deal with it, I guess, the way he'll deal with it. But I mean, it's a crazy situation. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, things are the way they are. Like I can't change nothing.
Have you been following the college kids at all? Do you keep track of the NCAA system still a little bit, or at least
Oh
the
yeah,
fast
yeah.
guys?
I still watch the track meets.
What are your thoughts on Terrence Laird's 1980 and recently Javon Martin's 994 for Florida
Man,
State?
that 1980 was crazy. I ain't even gonna lie to you. I was like, little dude moving. I was like, what? And when I look at him, I'm like, dude, look like he bought like $130. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's stepping. I was like, that's crazy. So now, shout out to him, man. Like even like Javon, man. I'm like, when I was at the meet at Tom Jones, like in on that Saturday, watching the 100, because I was actually going to leave after the 4x1, but I was like, I'm gonna stay back and watch the 100. Man, when he got up to 70 and I seen them knees, I said, oh yeah, he finna run 9. And then when I went back and watched the race later on that day and noticed that he was like 4th, 5th out of the blocks, I said, oh yeah, he got 9.8 in his legs. But once again, going back to what I said previously, this gonna come into play mentally how he moves. If he could tell himself that he can run that and he trains and he stay focused, he can do it. Like I seen it. I was like, when I went back and watched that video, I said, dude got 9.8 in his legs. I don't know if he believe it or he know it, but I'm good at seeing that talent. Like I can spot it, and it's there.
When are we gonna see you lace him up and run a 100-meter dash before the trials?
I'm actually running this weekend, so
Okay.
I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna be up there in Oregon. So
in Oregon,
yeah. So hopefully the weather changed from what the what the app say. But yeah, man. So I'm just looking forward to just nice little healthy race if the weather bad. If not, I got a couple hundreds lined up coming up towards the starting of May and mid May. So yeah, we're gonna get things ramped up because I definitely want to be prepared coming for trials.
How many like races do you kind of ideally want to get in before the trials?
That see that, and I think, like I said, once again, that's the thing that we sit down and try to do. Me and coach just trying to figure out what's a good meet to go to where I could possibly get in some rounds because obviously we're gonna have to run rounds of trials and run rounds at the Olympics. So I think a lot of pros should also consider that as well. We gotta start getting our body ready for that. Like these one-offs, yeah, they good to get fast times, but if you can't run that in multiple hour spans, like it ain't gonna do nothing because the Oregon meet has multiple rounds. So we looking forward to running these rounds, getting this practice in, going on the rest of this outdoor season, getting some meets in and getting ready for trials.
Well, Trayvon, I really appreciate you taking the time. Good luck the rest of the season. We
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see you on the 100-meter dash, and it's gonna be a fun final, man. You,
Oh yeah.
you, Gatlin, Noah, all those guys. It's gonna be good.
Oh yeah, nah, man. I'm just happy to be back running, dog. It's been a long time. I missed the track. I miss running, like running with fast guys. It was something that was long overdue, but I had to understand the patience that had to come with it. Like I said, the reforming of who I am as a person. So yeah, no, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good for sure.
And again, our viewers, we're gonna be releasing Trayvon's documentary, the 2-part series, this week on YouTube. So be sure to check it out. Kind of a little
So
throwback to 2015 days.
yeah.
It's weird watching you. You have that young face. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, young Trey, man.
Young Trey.
I watch some of that stuff. I'm like, man, I was only 19 years old. I'm like, man, I'm about to be 26. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, time is flying.
Why did they give you a
Yeah,
microphone then? They should have waited a few more years, right?
man, look.
Well, Trayvon, I appreciate and best of luck in, I guess, Eugene,
Oh
first
yeah,
race.
for sure. Appreciate it.